The crowd roared, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. Maybe it was the spotlight, maybe it was her voice, but in that instant I knew falling for her would ruin me. And I didn't care. New York had always been a city of noise, but that night it became the soundtrack of my undoing. The music competition was supposed to be my shot, my one chance at proving to the world and maybe to myself that I belonged on that stage. Yet when she walked out, I realized destiny wasn't about winning. It was about colliding. Her name was Evelyn Hart. I'd heard whispers of her before. A rising star with a voice that could slice through silence and stitch it back together. She wasn't just beautiful, she was the kind of beautiful that hurt. Long waves of chestnut hair framed her sharp cheekbones, and her eyes, God, those eyes looked like they held entire galaxies. When she sang, the world bent to listen. And me? I was nobody. A girl from a small town in Ohio with callous fingers from too many hours playing cheap guitars, carrying dreams too big for her pocket. I wasn't supposed to notice her like that. I wasn't supposed to feel the world shift when her gaze brushed mine during the duet round. But when it happened, it felt like every warning I'd ever heard about fire and wings and wax finally made sense. The competition paired us up randomly. Fate, some would say. Cruel irony, others might argue. We stood center stage with millions watching through live broadcast. The judges staring with clipped professionalism. The audience buzzing with anticipation. And as the first note spilled from her throat, I forgot how to breathe. "Stay with me tonight," she sang, her voice trembling just enough to betray sincerity beneath the polish. The lyrics weren't ours, they belonged to some chart-topping ballad we'd been assigned. But the way she looked at me, as if the words were pulled from her own chest, made them ours. When it was my turn, my voice cracked on the first line, nerves chewing through me. She reached across the small space between us and gave my hand the softest squeeze, invisible to the crowd but enough to anchor me. I sang like my life depended on it. Maybe it did. By the time the final note faded, we were still holding hands. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was heavy, charged, like the world holding its breath. And in that moment, my heart betrayed me completely. I wanted her. Not just her voice, not just her presence. Her. The applause exploded, snapping me back to reality. Cameras zoomed in, commentators gushed, judges exchanged knowing glances. But all I could think was, what now? Because love wasn't supposed to bloom here. Not under these lights, not under these rules. That night backstage, Evelyn found me leaning against the concrete wall, my chest still heaving from adrenaline. She didn't speak right away. She just looked at me with a softness that stripped me bare. "You were incredible," she whispered finally. I laughed, bitter and shaky. "You carried me." "No," she said, stepping closer. "You found me." Her words knocked the air out of me. I should have walked away. I should have reminded myself of the cameras, the contracts, the fact that the world devours stories like this and spits them out with claws. But when she touched my cheek, every ounce of resistance dissolved. We kissed. It wasn't fireworks or thunder, it was quieter than that. A trembling, hesitant press of lips that spoke of fear and longing in equal measure. And yet it felt louder than the entire city outside. I pulled back first, panic slicing through me. "Evelyn, people can't," her smile was sad but unwavering. "Then let them watch." And as much as I wanted to believe her bravery, I knew better. The world wasn't kind to girls like us. Especially not when they were looking for a scandal. Especially not when love had the audacity to bloom in front of millions. The next days blurred into a storm. Headlines. Rumors. Fans dissecting every glance, every note, every accidental brush of our hands. Producers whispering in corridors, warning me about contracts and consequences. My family back in Ohio calling, their voices trembling with worry and confusion. And Evelyn? She stood tall. She sang harder. She smiled wider. But in the rare moments we stole together, dark corners of rehearsal rooms, back seats of taxis, the quiet edges of hotel rooftops, her armor cracked. I saw the fear in her eyes, the weight of being brave for both of us. Still, neither of us let go. One night, after a grueling rehearsal, she collapsed beside me on the stage floor. Our bodies sprawled out like we belonged to the same constellation. "Do you regret it?" I asked, voice barely a breath. She turned to me, her hair brushing my arm. "Falling for you?" She let out a tired laugh. "No. But I regret that the world might break you for it." Her honesty burned because I had thought the same. But the truth was clear. I was already broken, and she was the only thing holding me together. The final round of the competition loomed like a storm cloud. We both knew it wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about survival of our careers, of our reputations, of us. Millions would be watching. Every note would matter. Every glance would be dissected. And deep down, I knew something would have to shatter. The morning after that first kiss, the city was already buzzing with headlines. Mystery spark between Evelyn Hart and contestant. Queer love story on live TV? Or just clever marketing? America's sweetheart caught in forbidden romance. I stared at the screen of my phone until the words blurred. Every tweet, every video clip slowed down frame by frame, every stranger's opinion about my life. I had wanted a stage. Instead, I was given a spotlight that burned through my skin. Evelyn, on the other hand, seemed untouched. She walked into rehearsal that day like nothing had happened. Her smile dazzling, her laughter loud, her professionalism flawless. But when our eyes met across the studio, something inside me twisted. Because I knew she wasn't untouched at all, she was acting. Acting so the cameras wouldn't catch the truth trembling beneath her ribs. "Focus," the vocal coach barked, clapping his hands as the band struck the first chords of our final performance piece. Focus. That was the last thing I could do. We were assigned a love ballad because irony never missed a chance to cut deep. The lyrics spoke of surrender and devotion, of choosing love no matter the cost. Every rehearsal felt like a dare, every harmony like a confession. When Evelyn sang the line, "I'd rather fall than live without you," I nearly broke. Because I believed her. And because I wasn't sure I could survive the fall. That evening, after hours of rehearsals, Evelyn found me in the dressing room. I was sitting in front of the mirror, makeup smudged from tears I hadn't meant to shed. She closed the door behind her, soft but decisive. "Hey," she whispered, kneeling beside me. Her reflection hovered in the mirror, eyes tender. "Don't let them break you." I shook my head. "You don't understand. My parents called me this morning. They're scared. They think I'm throwing away everything I worked for. And maybe they're right. Maybe we're—" "Stop." Her voice was firm now. "We're not a mistake." I looked at her, desperate, afraid. "Then what are we?" She smiled, small and trembling. "We're real." And somehow that was enough to quiet the storm in me. But storms don't vanish. They wait. The day of the final arrived like a wave. The arena was packed, the cameras unforgiving. America was watching. My hand shook so violently I thought I'd dropped the microphone before the song even began. Evelyn reached for me again like she always did, steadying me with just one touch. The crowd erupted in cheers, assuming it was staged. Another dramatic flourish for television. They didn't know it was survival. The music started. We sang. It wasn't perfect, our voices cracked in places, our timing slipped once or twice. But it was raw. It was alive. Every note carried the weight of everything we'd been too afraid to say aloud. By the time we hit the final chorus, we weren't just singing to the audience. We were singing to each other. And then it happened. On the very last note, Evelyn turned toward me, tears shining in her eyes. Without hesitation, she dropped the microphone, cupped my face and kissed me. The arena exploded. Gasps, screams, applause, even a few boos, all blending into one deafening roar. The judges' jaws dropped. The host tried to regain control. But it was too late. The story had written itself. We had crossed a line on live television, and there was no going back. The aftermath was chaos. My phone buzzed nonstop, offers, threats, hate, love, confusion. The producers called us both into a private meeting. Their smiles were tight, their words colder than the air-conditioned room. "You've put us in a difficult position," one of them said, his tone sharp. "This show is about music, not scandal." Evelyn folded her arms. "Love isn't a scandal. America might disagree," he snapped. I wanted to disappear into the floor. Contracts, reputations, careers, all of it hung over us like a blade. Evelyn's defiance was breathtaking, but I could see the cracks forming. Behind her sharp words was exhaustion, fear, the weight of carrying both of us. After the meeting, we sat on the steps outside the studio, the night air cool against our burning skin. "Maybe this is the end," I whispered. Evelyn leaned her head against my shoulder. "Or maybe it's the beginning." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe we could walk through the fire and come out unburned. But the truth was we were already burning. In the weeks that followed, everything blurred. The media frenzy reached a fever pitch. Fans split between worship and outrage. Sponsors pulled out. Activists rallied behind us. My family's silence was the loudest wound of all. Through it all, Evelyn and I clung to whatever scraps of time we could steal together. Hidden cafes, hotel rooftops, empty rehearsal rooms. Every kiss felt like both rebellion and surrender. Every touch a reminder that we were still here, still real, still us. But I could feel the weight pressing down, the cracks spreading. Love had made us brave, but the world was determined to make us small. One night, after a particularly brutal press conference, I found Evelyn in her dressing room, her hands shaking as she tried to untangle her necklace. Tears streaked her cheeks, her body trembling with the effort of holding herself together. "Evie," I whispered, rushing to her side. She looked up at me, eyes blazing with anger and fear. "I can't keep pretending it doesn't hurt." I pulled her into my arms, holding her as tightly as I could. "Then don't. You don't have to be strong for me. Not all the time." She broke then, sobbing into my shoulder, her entire body shaking. And as I held her, I realized something I hadn't before. This wasn't just about surviving the world. It was about surviving ourselves, our doubts, our fears, the way love can feel like both salvation and destruction. But even through the fear, one truth remained. I loved her. And I would rather burn with her than live untouched without her. The backlash came like a tidal wave. First, it was exhilarating. Clips of our kiss dominated the internet, hashtags trending worldwide. Some called us brave, iconic, history-making. Others called us selfish, disgusting, sinful. The extremes clashed in endless comment sections, and somewhere between the worship and the hate, we were drowning. Evelyn tried to shield me from it. She gave interviews where she smiled softly and said things like, "Love is love, and I won't apologize for it." She stood in front of cameras like a warrior, her voice steady, her beauty untouchable. But I knew the cost. I saw the sleepless nights, the trembling hands when she thought no one was looking. For me, the cost was different. I wasn't famous. I wasn't protected by status or wealth. I was just a contestant, easily discarded. The producers pulled me aside more than once, their words sharp, their threats subtle but clear. "You're lucky we haven't cut you. Don't push it." My family's silence became unbearable. My mother used to call after every performance, her voice full of pride. Now the phone stayed cold. I left message after message, my voice cracking, begging her to say something, anything. But all I got was silence. And then the death threats started. Emails, DMs. Notes slipped under hotel doors. Some were vague, others graphic. The kind of words that make your skin crawl and your stomach knot. Evelyn wanted to go to security, but I begged her not to. "If they think we're scared, they win," I whispered. But the truth was I was terrified. One night we sat on the roof of the hotel, wrapped in a single blanket, the city lights stretching endlessly below us. Evelyn's hand found mine, her thumb tracing circles on my skin. "Tell me what you're thinking," she whispered. I hesitated, the words heavy in my chest. "I'm scared, Evie. Not of loving you. Never that. But of what this world is going to do to us." She turned to me, her eyes shining. "Then let's promise each other something. No matter what happens, no matter what they say, we hold on. Even if the whole world is against us." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. We kissed under the stars, a fragile vow sealed against the hum of the city. But promises are easy in the quiet. It's the noise that breaks you. The next storm came from the network. A leaked memo spread online. Executives debating whether to fire Evelyn from her upcoming tour, whether I should be disqualified for misconduct. The phrasing was brutal and personal, as if our love were nothing more than a pure disaster to clean up. The news hit Evelyn hard. I found her pacing her dressing room, her hands tangled in her hair. "They can't do this," she snapped, her voice shaking. "They can't erase me because I love you." "Evie," I started, but she cut me off. "I've worked my whole life for this. Every sleepless night, every scar on my voice, every time someone told me I'd never make it, this tour was supposed to be mine. And now they're taking it away because of a kiss." Her anger cracked into grief, her body folding as she sank onto the couch. I knelt beside her, my own heart breaking. "Then let me go," I whispered. The words hurt even as I said them. If being with me is costing you everything, then don't, she said sharply, grabbing my hand. Her eyes blazed with something between fury and desperation. Don't you dare think you're the problem. You're the reason I can breathe in this madness. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But guilt gnawed at me, whispering that maybe I was poison. Maybe loving me meant losing everything she had built. The final week of the competition was brutal. Every rehearsal felt like walking through fire. The judges' smiles had turned thin, their compliments hollow. I could feel the weight of their disapproval, the sense that I was an inconvenience, a liability. But Evelyn never let me fall alone. She stood beside me through every note, every step, every staged smile. On stage, we were fire and light. Off stage, we were two scared girls clinging to each other in the dark. Then came the betrayal. It was a Thursday night when my phone buzzed with a new headline. My stomach dropped as I read it. Anonymous source. Evelyn Hart secretly dating producer's son. Lesbian romance just a publicity stunt. The article was filled with lies, painting our love as nothing more than a scheme for attention. Photos of Evelyn standing too close to a man backstage. Quotes twisted out of context. Anonymous whispers claiming she laughed at the idea of fooling America. I felt sick. My chest tightened, breath shallow. I wanted to scream to deny it, but the seed of doubt burrowed deep. When I confronted Evelyn, she looked stricken. You believe this garbage? She demanded, her voice raw. I don't know what to believe. I cried, tears burning my eyes. You're famous, you have a life I can't even touch. How do I know I'm not just some phase? Some scandal to survive. Her face crumpled. You know me better than that. Do I? My voice cracked. Because right now I feel like the world knows you better than I ever will. The silence between us was louder than any scream. She left the room without another word. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the weight of betrayal and doubt crushing me. I wanted to run back to her, to believe her, to erase the distance. But fear held me frozen. For the first time I wondered if love wasn't enough. The next day, Evelyn showed up at rehearsal with her chin high, but her eyes red from sleeplessness. She didn't speak to me, not even a glance. We sang side by side like strangers, our harmonies flawless but hollow. The audience would never notice. But I felt it. The absence of her touch, the silence of her gaze. It was like singing with a ghost. And I realized then we were breaking. The weeks that followed were hell. Rumors poisoned everything, twisting our story into scandal. My name became a headline. Evelyn's career dangled by a thread. And somewhere between the flashing cameras and the whispered threats, we lost each other. We stopped meeting on rooftops, stopped sneaking hands between rehearsals. We stopped kissing like the world could end at any moment. Instead, we argued. We doubted. We pulled away. Until one night she was simply gone. Her team pulled her from rehearsals, claiming exhaustion. The tabloids screamed betrayal, painting her as coward, villain, victim, whatever sold copies. And me? I was left behind, rehearsing alone, my voice cracking on every lyric that once belonged to us both. I hated her. I missed her. I loved her. I couldn't breathe without her. The final show came. The stage was enormous, the cameras unforgiving, the air thick with tension. I stood under the spotlight, microphone trembling in my hands. The song began, but my voice sounded hollow, empty, because she wasn't there. And then, halfway through the first verse, the arena erupted in gasps. Evelyn walked on stage. Not in glittering costume, not with her usual polished grace. She wore a simple black dress, her hair loose, her eyes raw. She carried no microphone. She didn't need one. The moment she stepped beside me, the music stopped. The audience fell silent. She took my hand. I can't let them rewrite us, she said, her voice carrying across the entire stadium. I can't let them take you from me. The crowd roared, some cheering, some booing, but all watching. Evelyn turned to me, her eyes burning with a courage I had almost forgotten. They can call it scandal. They can call it a mistake. But I won't. Because this, she lifted our joined hands, is love. And I refused to be ashamed of it. Tears blurred my vision. My heart thudded so hard I thought I'd collapse. The cameras zoomed in, millions watching across the country, across the world. My whole body shook with fear. But Evelyn's hand in mine was steady, unyielding. And in that moment I made my choice. I kissed her. It wasn't tentative or quiet or hidden. It was defiant. A declaration. Our kiss filled the stadium, stronger than the noise, stronger than the hate. The audience exploded, some on their feet cheering, others leaving in anger. But none of it mattered. For the first time I wasn't afraid. The band, sensing the moment, began to play again, soft and slow. Evelyn grabbed the microphone, her voice trembling but unbroken as she sang not the assigned competition song, but one of her own. A song about fire and falling, about choosing love even when it burns. I joined her. Our voices wove together, imperfect and raw and more beautiful than anything I'd ever heard. By the end, confetti rained from the rafters, the lights blazed golden, and the world had witnessed something they couldn't erase. When the music faded, we stood hand in hand, breathless, tear-streaked but unbroken. The judges never announced a winner. It didn't matter anymore. The show was over, but our story wasn't. The aftermath was brutal. Evelyn lost sponsors. I was blacklisted from labels that once courted me. The hate was louder than ever. But the love was louder still. Letters poured in from kids who said they finally felt seen. Couples who said they weren't afraid anymore. Strangers who said our defiance gave them hope. And through it all, we had each other. There were nights we broke down, curled in each other's arms, wondering if it was worth it. There were mornings we woke up terrified of what headline would drop next. But then there were moments, quiet breakfasts in our tiny apartment, stolen laughter in the middle of chaos, kisses in the rain when no one was watching that reminded us of the vow we made. To hold on, even if the whole world was against us. Years later, Evelyn stood on stage again, not in a competition, not under someone else's rules. It was her concert, her tour, her voice filling arenas across the country. And that night in New York, as she sang the final chorus, she turned to the wings of the stage where I stood waiting. "Come here," she called, her smile radiant. The crowd cheered as I walked out, heart-pounding, memories crashing back. She took my hand, lifted it high, and whispered into the microphone, "I told you once. We're real. And nothing will ever change that." I kissed her again, confetti falling around us, the lights blazing like fire. The world roared. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like noise. Felt like music. Felt like home. Felt like love. And that's how I fell in love with a singer on stage. With millions watching, judging, cheering, hating, loving. That's how we survived. That's how we chose each other. Every single time. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.